welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt. With me today are life coaches Cindie Chavez and Jacqui Gates. This is your Daily Dose of Happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today. Now, we should qualify that to say it's not just your Daily Dose of Happy, it's actually our Daily Dose of Happy too. Yeah. I'll speak for myself. I'm in a place where I'm really glad that I'm doing a show right now, because otherwise I'd be falling down into a pit. And this is like an opportunity to climb back up again. So, ladies, thank you very much for being a part of my uplift. This is a good thing. I appreciate that so much. And how were your holidays? I hope you had a nice holiday season, Jacqui. I mean, I can't imagine you not having a happy holiday, but how was your holiday?
I had a very noisy, exuberant, exhausting, and fabulous holiday.
Here's a good comment.
You know, when you have a 3 and a 5-year-old, it's a very different pace, shall we say,
yes,
to our more sedate adult, get up when you please, have a quiet, everybody opens presents calmly, and then you sort of putter about. Yeah, there was none of that. I get a text from my daughter the first thing in the morning. Are you here yet? These kids are going bananas. I was like, okay, we're coming. But it was lovely. It's such a cliche, but Christmas is legit meant for kids. And to see it through their eyes is absolutely lovely. And it affirmed our decision to move closer to family, weather notwithstanding, because today it's, I don't know, minus something stupid outside. And so it's just, it has made a vast difference in how often we can visit, and Christmas in particular was really, really nice. Besides, 2,500 flights canceled. We would probably have been one of them.
Ooh,
yes.
So it was lovely, and very gratefulness filled with everything, and slept like the dead the night after. And then just sat on the couch and recovered while I watched football and ate leftovers for a day.
You may not have been born in America, but it sounds like you have America down pat at this point. I mean, you are living the American holiday dream right there.
Oh, yeah. It's not much different. It's just what's on TV. And in South Africa, it would have been cricket and soccer. So, we would watch, and we watch the Premier League on Saturdays and then football on Sundays. But we're sports nuts. I watch for the game. I don't really root for a team, which is just as well, because in every state I've lived, the team sucks. So enjoying the game while by not being too attached to the outcome is a really, really good deliberate creation practice. And I get to practice it every Sunday.
I love it.
So great.
It's one of those things where you hope for the best and just have the champagne on the side in case of the worst. So yeah.
Well, the first thing I have to say is this is working. All of a sudden, my vibe is about 25% higher than it was 3 minutes ago. So this is great. I love it.
So when I worked with Victoria's Secret, I was a bra specialist for about 5 years or so, which was wonderful because my grandmother was a corseteer. She actually made bras and corsets for a living, right? So I got, but on my resume, bra specialist sounded so sort of mainstream. So I referred to myself as Chief Boob Lifter-Upper. And the number of people, men in particular, who go, how come we were never told that was a job option? So, yes, Chief Boob Lifter-Upper is what I was for 5 years. Actually, I have to credit my daughter that, because we had discussed how, the title that you give yourself is very important, because it just has a vibe. Words have a vibe. So when she was working at Barnes and Noble, she was a shelver Really, that's what it was. She got books out of boxes and put them on the shelves. And she said she really hated how plain that was. So she was chief product placement specialist.
Excellent.
I know, and got her a raise because she was so good at placement and got her raise. It was like, well, there you go. So, and then I was the goddess of lattes because barista is really just not enough. So, yes. So choose if you start your new year with a self-created, elevated title, you can expect your year to go even better than anticipated. How's that for a thought? There you go.
I love it.
Wow.
Fantastic. Yes.
But did I say that I came in low vibe? I'm not there anymore. I'm way up here.
Now it's not chief boob lifter upper. I'm chief mood lifter upper now too.
That's right. Well, yes. Oh my goodness.
I'm over here, and Jacqui tells a story, and Walt says, "Thank you for lifting me up," and then she identifies herself as the chief boob lifter upper. I'm like, are you implying that Walt is the chief lifter around here?
I'll tell you though, there is nothing like laughter to lift the vibe, and that's exactly what just happened now. Oh my goodness, that is great. That is so good.
And I have a story for every occasion, apparently. So yes.
Yeah, I can tell. Well, I mean, what you were describing about with your grandchildren experiencing Christmas through their eyes, I think, is there a better expression of joy in any human experience than a child at Christmas?
Yeah.
I'm struggling to find one. I mean, that's like top of the list, I think.
Yeah, it's except for birthdays. I think I always liked. It felt like Christmas Day that was just about me, right? So that, none of this sharing nonsense. And so
all the poor kids born on Christmas, right?
I see that in my granddaughter. It's like, wait, this present for you? Oh, okay. Here you go then. It's like, but she's 3, so all the presents needed to be for her. But yeah, it was really special, and I'm very pleased to have the chance to do it. And we, and it is an awareness that not everybody has that, which, and I didn't have it. For a while we didn't get up here at Christmas. And so it's very grateful to be able to shift my life, design a life you love, and then get to live it. It's a good thing.
A great thing. Whoa, I'm just inspired right now.
Yes,
it's amazing how fast you can climb up that spiral in a matter of minutes with some help from a good friend. I mean, this is just really great. This is like, I mean, I'm up on I start off the show like, okay, we got a show coming that's going to help. It's going to feel good. Now all of a sudden I'm flying.
Yes.
This wonderful story that you tell. This is wonderful. I love this.
I think that's the key, right? It's just like you had to entertain the possibility that you'd feel better during this show. That's that's the key point, right? Because sometimes we are really enjoying our slump, and we're not going to let anybody talk us out of it, and we're going to wallow in it, and we're going to stay in this bad mood because sometimes that really is what we need to do, and other times we go, okay, well, maybe this movie, or maybe hanging out with a friend, or maybe doing this will make me feel better, and you just chink that door open, and it does its work. So yeah. Well, hopefully there's somebody out there that also feels better now.
I'm certain that's the case, because that's what we found every single time with any of the shows that we've done. There's always somebody who needs to hear a particular message that we are addressing or talking about or giving at that moment in time. It's amazing how often it comes back to us that was going on.
I have a story about that too, because I did I did the acting as a guest post thing, right? So I came on and I did the guest the acting as if episode, and I had somebody send me a message who said that she was particularly bored at lunch one day, and she was scrolling through podcasts she hadn't listened to for a while, and LOA Today came on, and that was the episode that I did first with you guys, and she listened to that, and she sent me a message and said, you were exactly what I needed at that time, and now she's a client.
Yay!
Wow.
Awesome.
It was crazy, but I mean, it's so serendipitous because she had listened. She said it had been about a month, and she'd kind of not stopped listening to podcasts, and that was part of it. And she'd come back and just picked on that episode. And I was saying all the things that she needed, and she said so. She decided to see if she could act as if the rest of the day would go better, and it did. And so she sent me an email. So there we go.
Awesome.
I know, right?
I love this.
Yeah. I want to talk about something before it slips away. What you said, Jacqui, about giving yourself a title, and you connected it to the year. And so I had so everyone knows that I think you both know I'm Jewish. There's a Jewish idea, and I first learned about it when my friend had liver cancer, and it was pretty advanced. And she also is Jewish, and she went to a rabbi that was one of her rabbis in New York City, and he said to her, when you change your name, you change your destiny. And this is a very common kind of thing in Judaism. And when we have naming ceremonies for our babies and things like that, and I know people, I was part of a ceremony. Did the singing for a ceremony of a woman that changed her name in order to change her destiny. Well, the story about my friend, she changed her name, and she changed her name to her first name to Hava, which is the Hebrew word for life, which is where we get the name in the Bible, Eve, Adam and Eve. Eve comes from that in Hebrew. And her cancer went into remission. Wow. And if I remember correctly, we're talking, that was like 15 years ago. And she's still fine. She's still going like crazy, living life and living large, right? Awesome. And so that story came back to my memory this week because I saw a post that was made by a woman who practices Judaism and also magic. And she was talking about the power of naming something. And she talked about naming the year, naming your new year. Well, of course, that's something that I've done for years. As a lot of people know me as the love and magic coach. Well, the first time that came up, I decided that my year was going to be the year for me of love and magic. That was my theme for the new year. And I met my husband that year. And yeah, and so these two thoughts coming together, right, about naming a year. Lots of people pick a word for the year or an intention for the year. Like I tweeted the other day, I think, possible intention for 2022, Mojo Rising. And it's like, we pick a name for the year, but this thought of naming yourself, changing your destiny by picking a name, and you thinking of picking a title for yourself for the year, kind of like all those things were weaving together.
I love it.
About that, right? And I think it's like, oh gosh, this is like getting me excited because it's another level of that, adding those two things together. So I don't know. I just wanted to
that's so cool.
Get out there because it's inspiring.
I didn't know that was a Judaic practice. That is so profound because I do it. I recommend, your future self could have a title, a different. I particularly love the sort of Game of Thrones of title. She who master of all you survey, or she who rules the kitchen, or whatever it is. And so I am the leading lady of ladies who lead. That's my current iteration, and it's really fun. I always name my houses. I name the spaces that the last one, I actually saw a post in Facebook Memories about the place we moved into in Roswell. And I decided that when I write my memoirs in 10, 20 years' time, I'm going to refer to this apartment as the place where I started making big money. So it was my big money seeding place. It was also like ground level, dark, like a cave. It was very cozy, but it was cold, and it wasn't really a good place for me. But I made a boatload of money, much more than I'd ever made before. Even though I wasn't happy in it, and I was cold all the time and whined incessantly about being cold, I will admit to it all. So those things were, you think you have to be happy to make money or whatever. No, the decision that this was going to be the place I started making good money, and I just had good money, not big money, good money, was enough. So when we moved here and we're 17 floors up, and I can see for miles, that I walked in, I said, this feels like a launch pad. So this was Leading Lady launch pad, and it's developing more and more. The space reminds me every day that this is its instructions. This is what it's built for. This is what I make it. And so, yeah, naming things is very powerful, and you can name pretty much anything.
Well, when I had this in an email from my friend, and I hadn't heard from her in a long time, so 15 years ago. And when I got the email, she was like, I just wanted to be catching you up. And she told me about the rabbi telling her, when you change your name, you change your destiny. What she didn't know was that I had been divorced for a short period of time, maybe a year or so. And I was trying to decide whether I wanted to go back and change my name to my birth name. And when I read that, I decided, well, that was kind of like confirmation for me. And that's when I changed my name back to Chavez. Here's the really interesting thing. I am so interested in etymology. I want to know where words come from. I want to know the meanings of names all the time. And I had never checked to see. I knew the meaning of my first name is Moon Goddess, and my middle name, which I share with Walt's wife, Louise. Louise, the meaning of that is Battle Maiden. And I never knew the meaning of my last name. Well, my entire life, I've been a graphic artist, a visual artist, a songwriter, and one of my things that I love is keys. I collected keys from the time I was a little girl. My dad would give me the extra keys to things that, those keys in the drawer where you don't know what they're for anymore. He would give those to me. I always had a key ring. I collected keys. And that day, I realized I didn't know what my last name meant. And I went and looked it up, and it means key maker.
Mm-hmm.
And I never knew it. And I was like, I have paintings in the house with keys that I've painted. Keys have always been a thing, but I didn't know that's what my name meant. And so I've always adopted that, she who opens doors. And that's the title that I've always taken on. And I always talk about helping people unlock things, right? And so it is a very powerful thing. So I just feel inspired, like encouraging our listeners to choose a powerful title for yourself. And like Jacqui said, the place where you are, give it a powerful name, like create a story that connects it together,
Yeah, or reframe your job, reframe your workplace, reframe anything. You can rename it. And it will be so fun to do that, and watch the vibe change.
And then write to us or comment on the live stream and tell us what you chose.
Yes, tell us what you chose. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, you're stimulating my imagination at this point, and to the point of not so much in terms of a particular idea, but rather that I need to come up with some ideas.
Yeah.
Like I hadn't even thought about what the meaning of my I know what the meaning of my first name is. I'd never really given it any attention, but I just looked up to double check. They actually have refined it a little bit since the last time I checked, which was about 40 years ago. But the current incarnation of it is Commander of the Army. That's what Walter means, which is kind of a strange thing from my perspective, because I never felt like I had any kind of a military aspect to me at all. But
an army doesn't have to be. An army doesn't happen to be have to be military. What if you've got what if you're the leader of a movement of LOA Today people? The army of listeners.
That's what I was just thinking.
The commander of the happiness dose.
Yes, yes.
I like that.
Purveyor of happiness. Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome.
And then my last name actually has a biblical background to it, because Thiessen actually is derived from Matheson, which is derived from Matthew, son of Matthew is what that is.
Yes.
So,
Matheson
yeah.
was the last name of my favorite director when I was back home. So back in South Africa, rather. So, yes, I didn't know that.
So that's
Yes.
that's what I'm starting with. But what you are inspiring me to realize is if I'm not crazy about the way that's all oriented, I can change it around a little bit, or I can change it around a lot.
Yeah.
And then the idea that the power of the name actually changes the direction of your life, because that's really what you're saying. Wow, I got to give that some thought.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be a given name, right? It can be just whatever title you decide to take on.
Yeah.
See, now I can imagine all of our hundreds of listeners saying, geez, I wonder what title I want.
Right. That's what I can do.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. You know, she who will be obeyed. Any of those.
All the moms with little children out there are like, yes.
Yeah, it's. I mean, going back to my granddaughter, she changes. She's one of the most. I'm running out of words, because it's just like she morphs. She just be whoever she wants to be, right? And so she wanted to climb something. So she was going to be superhero Jacqui. And so she went and got her cape, and I had bought her a cape, of course, you know, because glamours do that. A cape and a mask, and so now she's superhero Jacqui. And then she wanted to sing a song, and obviously superheroes weren't singers in her head. So now she was going to be princess. So she put the princess dress on and so now she's superhero Princess Jacqui, singing and climbing at the same time. And I was just like, we can all do this, right? It's just like, we don't have to be three to be superhero princess, whatever it is that you want to be. And so I just love the invitation to be playful with this. And because you have that power, you can name something, play with it, make it what you want, and be that. It's really fun, especially now. You know, this January is so full, especially now. But I love this liminal space between the two major calendars of the year, right? So we've got the Gregorian 1st of January, but then February something, 3rd, 2nd, somewhere around there. I'm not actually sure. You'd have to correct me, but the Chinese New Year. So it's like one half of the globe does all their New Year stuff on one day, and then a few lunar cycles after, we've got another one. And in that liminal space, I think you get to choose who you'll be and how you'll be and what you want, and choose a name. Why not?
Well, it's certainly appropriate to be thinking about it this time of year of what is it that you want to be.
It's so good. Yes, because there's collective intentional weight behind this resetting energy. You know, when there are a lot of people focused on the same thing, there's an energetic weight. And so that's why the new year feels the way it does. That's why
Capricorn season.
Pardon?
Capricorn season.
Yes, exactly.
Capricorn's ruled by Saturn, and Saturn is like, you know, let's organize things, let's make goals, let's get things done, let's, you know, that's, I mean, I think
so
that
good. And so it's so fun to have this conversation about what are the possibilities that you hadn't considered about how you could direct your life.
This is really interesting, and the reason I say that, well, it's interesting on a number of levels, but particularly where my own life has been in the last few days or so, and I've even talked about it a little bit here on the podcast. It's been a case of feeling like I'm kind of in a stuck place. And what you're reminding me of is the only reason I'm in a stuck place is because I don't choose to be in a moving place. All I got to do is just change where I want to be in my mind. That's another variation on act as if, but it's a variation I hadn't even thought about. That, you know, I can just, the naming part. I'm still, Cindie, I have to say, I'm still kind of blown away by the naming part. The idea you choose a name, the name becomes who you are. Like, whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, new possibilities exist that didn't exist in my mind 10 minutes ago.
Well, do you have a middle name?
My middle name is Frederick.
So there's that too, that's fun to
I can
figure
go to
out.
that one too. I don't even know I haven't checked Frederick in years. I don't even remember what it is. I'm sure it has a meaning, but I don't know. I'll look it up.
It's fun to find those things out, I think.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It's because we have, okay, this works. I didn't know this. Frederick means peaceful ruler.
Well, there
The
you
commander
go.
of the army who is the peaceful ruler. I like that one.
That's pretty powerful, yes.
That's really good. Okay. I'll go with that.
Look at you expanding your army. It's going to be
That's
good.
right.
Yes.
I didn't even know. 10 minutes ago, I didn't know I had an army. All of a sudden,
there
oh my
you
God.
go. Now it's even expanding. Yes. And the thing is that you get to play with this. It's like, so you're, when you're promoting the podcast, it's much more than promoting the podcast. You are sort of calling in the troops, you are raising the standard, you are sending out the buglers, whatever it is. It's so fun to be able to take the mundane stuff and rename it. There was a meme going around about enchanting your life.
Yes.
And it's like I am proceeding to the marketplace to procure victuals, or taking the trash out becomes disposing of the residue of previous feasts.
Yes.
We get to do this, right? We get to change and enchant our lives. And if something feels so mundane and boring, how else could you change it? And so, promotion becomes, I call it beaconing. When I do my promotions and stuff, I see it as beaconing. I see it as, and in my head, I'm putting up, posters and billboards and things so that everybody can find, my work and stuff. And so I and even when I do a program, I've got one coming up in April, I'll do it. So I see it as posters and banners, which is the invitation and the sales page, and then opening night, knock their socks off, closing night, go dark, send everybody home when I do my recovery thing. And then I just pick it up again, and there's more posters, and then we have opening night, and then we have closing night, and then I hide again, because it adds a nuance that feels right for me, and changes the mundaneness of what I do to run my business, right? Because it's not always the sparkly, exciting part. There's always, when I talk about housework, I always link housework to the things you tell yourself about the housework. So you sweep your floors, you can see it as a practice of clearing your path. If you don't know which way to go and sweep your floor and tell yourself, I clear my path is clear. I clear my path is clear. And once you throw that debris out, your head will be clearer. I guarantee it.
I love that you said that throwing away the trash is disposing of the residue of previous feasts, right? Like,
yes,
you've heard people talk about, especially in these kind of conversations, law of attraction circles, conscious creator circles, like writing checks when we used to write checks, but writing checks to pay, the electric bill was actually writing a thank you note that I've had electricity for the past month, right? Yes. So it's like the power of words and the power of reframing. I think that goes right along with this so powerfully. Like taking out the trash is something pretty mundane and not a job everyone wants to do. But when we look at it as, hey, anybody that's generating, we always joke, we'll take out the trash. Oh my gosh, how do the two of us make so much trash? We must be living really well. So it's like we can think of everything that way, reframe it into abundance, actually, how abundant we are.
There's another word that comes to my mind too as we're discussing this. The word is dare. You're daring yourself to take on this new identity. And the reason I say daring is kind of, it has a little bit of a sense of a challenge to it, but it also has a sense of give yourself a chance to kind of take a gamble on it. Just to see.
Yeah. Back yourself.
Just to see what happens.
Try it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we most of the time we shy away from any risk of failure, and so that
Mhm.
daring isn't a muscle we build very much. I know for myself, um, I am deeply allergic to any kind of sort of public looking less than. Which is why I never did improv on stage, and I like to over rehearse and all those kinds. So it took me a long time to show up live, for example, because it's like, what if something falls out of my mouth and I can't take it back, or
Yes.
something like that. And so I wouldn't, for the longest time, I wouldn't do anything that wasn't editable.
Mm.
And I had to dare myself to just show up. I did back in the day when I had a YouTube channel. I did a 30-day challenge, and I said I would make a video every day for 30 days, and I wouldn't edit it. I would just say what was on my mind. And that was so incredibly freeing, that dare, because really, who's risking anything? Nothing really. Nobody died in the process, and I didn't cause any world wars or anything. So, yeah, but the risk, your brain is still going danger, danger. So,
Yeah.
so a dare is a fun thing. And so, what would you do if you dared? It's a good question. It's a potent question.
And it has all kinds of possible answers, which is what makes it so powerful. Because
Yeah.
that means you can make the answer whatever you want it to be,
Mm-hmm.
which goes right back to what we were talking about earlier about the idea of changing your identity, your name to X, whatever the X is, and filling
Mm-hmm.
in that X with something that gives you a feeling of energy. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll tell you something I don't do. I don't play back the episodes,
Uh-huh.
except this one. This one's
Oh.
going to get a playback. I can tell already. I'm only halfway through it, and I know I'm going to be playing this one back because this is a big lift for me. Just
Oh, that's
hearing
good.
these concepts is really big, and so I know I'm certain there are listeners who are experiencing the same thing, which is
Yeah.
that's really great. I love
Yes.
this.
And
I'm
it
glad
we're
we're having
all
this
their friends,
conversation
so we'll call in the troops.
on the 5th day of January. It's like still right freshly the first week of the new year. It's a great
Right?
time
Yeah.
for this. Yeah.
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 It's the best time. And it's interesting too. We were talking before we got going. All of us were kind of in middling kind of places, and uh, glad to be doing the podcast episode, but we didn't really have lots of good ideas going on in terms of what's the topic going to be. Oh, we'll just kind of wing it. Look at what we winged. Oh my god!
Yeah, it's when we stop filtering ourselves, and we
Yeah,
start just being in the moment and being just sharing. It's good. It's really,
So,
really
well,
see,
good.
Jacqui, you are doing improv.
I'm
you
fine
are
with
beautiful.
improv. Yes, here I go. I remember when I asked you, Cindie, the first time, and I said, "Well, what do you do?" She said, "Well, we just go online and talk." It's like, really? How do you? Okay. So yes, so here we are online talking. But yes, it is on. For the longest time, I wouldn't have done something like this. It's just, and it takes a certain amount of trust, but it also takes identity. I would tell myself, I am somebody who can speak on demand. I am somebody who can, wow a crowd in a moment. I am somebody who knows her stuff. That's that kind of thing where, because that's, your brain will go, this is dangerous, and then give you a lot of reasons why it could be, and it'll give you reasons it'll give you very good reasons to stay small, including things that it thinks is true, like you don't know enough, you could totally screw this up, people could send you a hitman after you, and who knows. So it's all but it is these things that our brains make out to be absolutely legit reasons for staying small, and they so seldom are. And then if you've played with an alter ego or a new name, I ran the alter ego academy last year, which was hella fun. And we just made up an alter ego because, Lady Gaga had one, and Cary Grant was one. And, so many people have created alter egos that have become the success that they wanted. And Marilyn Monroe is another one. And so I've forgotten where I was going to go with this, but my alter ego was totally fine being interviewed. And so that was part of it. It's like, okay, I know my stuff enough to be able to present it in on the spur of the moment. But that took some coaching, actually, because my brain had a lot of reasons why I shouldn't do that, why I should write everything out first and edit it 100 times.
It's like when you take that, like Walt said, daring, when you take that step of just like, I think about the first podcast that Walt and I did together. We had them really planned out. We had a topic and 10 points we were going to cover, and and we did that, and then we were really comfortable with each other just talking. And then one day we kind of like realized we showed up and we didn't have any. We were like, "What's the topic? I don't know." And it's like, we're going on in 2 minutes because we're live, And so we just said, "Well, let's just wing it." And it was such a great show. I think that we both were like, oh, wow. And so then we got more and more comfortable with it. And I think that's how any of this happens, is that you take that little step that you're not real comfortable, that saying that everything you want is outside of your comfort zone. You take that one little step, and then you realize it's kind of like people are always afraid to have a difficult conversation. And then they realize they're so glad they did. It wasn't as bad as they thought it was going to be. Things are better now. Same thing. It's like you realize, oh, that wasn't as hard as my brain was trying to convince me that it was going to be. And then you get easier and easier with it. And now we just show up all the time, not knowing what the hell we're going to talk about. And it always turns out really great.
It does. It's amazing how often that happens.
And I have listened to shows before. I've been halfway through a show and thought, oh, I'm going to have to listen to this again. That was really great. Whatever, Jacqui said or Walt said or whatever. It's like, I have to hear that again. So yeah, awesome. It happens.
Jacqui, also, you mentioned the word trust earlier and how it takes a certain degree of trust to do this. But I'd point out is also the flip side. The more that you do this, the more it builds trust.
Right? Oh, yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. People say, oh, I want to feel confident before I can do something. Well, no, you do something and then the confidence comes.
Yes.
It comes from it.
You have to do that leap. It's at some point you will do despite the non-belief. Belief comes from practice. And it can be both ways around, but I think when we wait to feel ready, that's not the way to go. We need to dare, and more daring, I think, would be really, really useful. That's how humanity has been pushed forward. The people who dare, the Wright brothers who throw themselves into the sky on a box of matches, and which is
about box of matches. That's pretty much what it amounted to.
Oh my God, yes. And then they're celebrating 30 seconds of flight, and we're going. Yeah, yay, 30 seconds.
Especially if you've been to Kitty Hawk, because Kitty Hawk is just like a gale wind at all times, continuously. So the fact that they were able to fly at all, and that is worth celebrating. It was amazing.
And for me, the flying is never as important as the landing. I just really think that when they got the landing, that's when we could fly. Because and so when you trust that you'll have yourself when you land, then you give yourself permission to fly.
Because the landing actually reinforces the idea that you survived.
Right? Yes, yeah. Exactly. I had to learn, one of the biggest things is to learn to be kind to myself if I failed. Because I noticed that I would protect myself from my mean girl side by not even trying. Because if I failed, she was going to just let rip and make me feel awful. But if I know that I won't feel that bad, or I can hold myself in kindness, if I fail, then I'm more willing to dare. And so I should have written that down. That was quite good.
We're going to have to go back and re-listen to
this is a re-listen episode. There's no doubt about this.
Jacqui's saying, oh, I wanted to, everything had to be written out and then, edited 100 times to perfection. And I have been right there too. As a matter of fact, Jacqui and I both have the same channel in our human design chart. It's the one that says fear of being underprepared. So we're always overprepared. We always, but I think about that, what you just said. It's this idea of having things perfect, and perfectionism is never about having things perfect. It's actually about feeling safe.
Yes, very much so.
So once you realize I did this thing, it was totally not perfect, and it didn't kill me.
Wow, yes.
Right?
Yes.
Then you can do it again. And then you
And I'm not going to be mean to myself about it either.
Right. You stop being afraid of failure because you just go on, and then you do it better the next time, and you give yourself that. So definitely there's that idea of every time it gets easier.
Yes, definitely.
And every time you get better at it. Practice.
There's something else here too that's coming to mind that's I've been directly immersed in the last few days. And that is I have a long history of being a doer. And Cindie, you'll probably tell me that's part of my chart in some way. I'm not sure that it is because I have
Manifesting generator, yes, yeah, that's pretty much
just
it.
kind of, yeah, that's kind of it. And I've been in an interesting space the last week because I had some doing to do, and it basically has to do with putting the summit together that I'm putting together. And I didn't have any desire to do it. I mean, like there was a part of me that knew, oh my God, you're going to slip behind, you're going to fall behind schedule. You got to get this done right now. And that's the side I would usually have given into it. Okay, let's do some doing here. Got to get the doing done. But instead, I've been doing something very much out of my comfort zone. I have been not doing what I needed to do.
Oh,
And it scared it continues to scare the daylights out of me. It's frightening, it's uncomfortable, but it's also been kind of interesting too, because I'll tell you guys what I have done, and listeners of the podcast already know this from earlier this week. On Monday, I took a break, which I've been doing continuously, like one break after another, which is very strange. But I took one of my breaks, and during the break, I said, I don't want to focus on this right now. What do I want to focus on? And somebody who I'm connected to on Facebook had posted that she had just gotten a piano. I thought to myself, wow, I used to play piano when I was a kid. I then played guitar later on, but piano was my first love. And I keep thinking, oh, it'd be great to have a piano, but I don't have enough room for a grand piano, and anything less than a grand piano, I don't want it. It's got to be a grand piano. But then I remembered, well, as I'm reading what she wrote, she got one of these electric piano keyboard things. Well, you don't have to have room for that. That's just, you put that on a table. And the sound quality on them is pretty good. I mean, it may not be the same as a grand piano, but it's pretty good these days. They've come, a long way with their ability to create sampling that sounds fairly convincing. So I took another look at it, and long story short, which I've already told earlier on the podcast, I bought myself a piano keyboard that's going to be coming in this weekend. And that just excited me. And I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing? I have this job I have to do. What's going on? So I've got this little game going, this little ping pong match going on in my head. On the one hand, I'm not doing the doing thing that I've always thought I needed to do and that I feel a strong urgency to do right now. And on the other hand, I'm getting excited about a keyboard that's coming in on Saturday.
I'm excited too.
I'm excited too. Yes.
Awesome. Yes.
It's a very strange space for me to be in. I mean, I don't know if I can convey how strange that space is. And I'm asking myself, what am I daring right now? And you know what I'm daring? I'm daring myself to not get all worked up about the fact that I haven't been doing.
You're daring yourself to do what you want to do rather than what you think you have to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And no ifs, ands, or buts. That's scary when it feels like it's imminent, like you have to have it right now, or else you're going to be in trouble because you've made these promises to everybody. And I know in the end, I'll end up putting something together that'll work just fine.
Yep.
My conscious mind knows that. It's just that it hasn't really gotten through to my emotional mind. My emotional mind is saying, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, because change is risky always. It's always going to have a meltdown when you change. But yeah, that's so delicious. Oh my goodness. Newness all the way around.
And well, then the best part is because law of attraction is at work with all this stuff. I placed the order, and they they didn't have it in stock. You had to have it shipped to you. They said it was going to be 10 days to have it shipped. Like, oh, 10 days. Oh, well, all right. So that means it's going to come in a week from tomorrow. Then I got a note today. Oh, it's being shipped ahead of time. You're going to have it by Saturday. Like,
Awesome. Yes.
And I keep thinking about how you playing with your new toy,
which is what it is,
be activating that right brain, which is the place where all the creativity and intuition and really where the magic happens, right? And that will have an effect on you putting together the summit.
It will.
Oh, it will. Absolutely. Yes, yes. And the creativity and the playfulness and the giving yourself permission to do what you enjoy. That's a really good role model thing too.
Exactly. Yes.
So wow. I am serious when I'm saying I'm going to go back and listen to this episode because this has been very, very powerful for me. I'm thinking now, okay, this is a different feeling from where I was at like an hour ago. I'm thinking I can give myself a new name for what I'm now doing. I don't even know what the name is yet. I mean, we drew from my actual name. You know,
it's going to be a rock star name now.
Like,
yes, yes.
And the hardest part about it is daring to do it. I got to dare myself to actually.
We dare you.
We dare you. Two dares here already.
Well, because seriously, it's easy to kind of slip into. Well, yeah, okay, that's a great idea. I'll get to that.
Yeah. It's the bobblehead thing. You know, everybody just bobbleheads, but nobody actually moves.
Right.
Yes.
So you actually have to take that. That's the one time when the action actually is important to do. You have to actually do that part.
I think action is important to do anyway, because you affirm, you affirm your thoughts. That's how thoughts become things. That become is a verb. You got to do the doing at some point. But it's the following of your inspiration. It's the following of your that lure that said, hey, come and play piano again. There's a version of you in the future that's going, yes, he listened.
That's right.
Yeah.
And there's the present version that's saying, what does learning to play the piano again have to do with putting on a summit? It's not even connected at all.
And that version of going is just wait and see. Just wait and see.
We are holistic.
Yeah, we contain.
That's why I hate that life coach wheel, It's like divided circle that's got job and family and and I understand it can really be useful, but it still all comes back to the idea that how we do anything is how we do everything, and everything affects everything else. How happy I am in my job affects my relationship. How great my relationship is going affects my creativity. It's all connected. So this is definitely going to have a big impact on you, on your vibration, on the podcast, on the summit. It's awesome.
Yeah, because you've given yourself permission that you didn't have before, right? And so when you start playing with creating the summit, you're going to give yourself permission in ways that you hadn't thought of until then either. It's a beautiful thing. I mean, there are doors now where there once were walls. It really is. And I love the Walt Whitman idea is that I am vast, I contain multitudes. The whole quote is, do I contradict myself? Well, then I contradict myself. I am vast, I contain multitudes. And I love that thing that we get so, and this is our industrialization, right? That niching, that you do this thing. You are the shoemaker. You are the candle maker. You are this thing. And then, so if if you're going to be a guy who runs a gardening service and plays piano and has a podcast, it's like most brains are going to go because those things just haven't gone together before. But you get to do you, and all your multitudes are what make you unique. That's what I I work with all my clients all the time, is that those things that we put on the sideline are the very things that need the spotlight. It's because it's part of your multitudes, and it's part of what fulfills you. And when you smother a part of you all the time, or for because it seems to be the right thing to do, we all go through seasons of that. Though I will say, we all go through seasons of that. It's like you can wear the clothes for the job you want, but if your job says you got to wear a black t-shirt and black slacks, then you're going to have to, and you wear your Wonder Woman outfit, you're going to be in some trouble. So you have to kind of conform in some ways, but most of the time we conform both too readily and too long. We need to be all our multitudes, and the more paradoxical, the more interesting.
Well, I think part of what goes on here, a big part of it actually is, and this is going to be especially true for me, not just as a doer, but as a logical doer. But there's a large piece of me that has long felt, well, life should be logical. So my entire path is going to be a logical path, and that logical path is going to lead me to where I want to be, except that it was never true. The logical path never worked out the way I wanted it to work out, or expected it to work out, or hoped it to work out. And in fact, the things that worked out were far from a logical path. They were so illogical. They were so irrational. They flew all over the place and bounced off of walls and slammed into guardrails and everything. And then all of a sudden I ended up in a new place. Like, huh, what just happened? Was that a roller coaster, Walt? What's going on here? So it didn't fit the logical, straightforward, here's the route to where you want to go path. But it got there. And that was the one that always got there. So I get what Walt Whitman was talking about. I mean, yeah, okay, maybe it's a contradiction, but so what? That's how I got there.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I had a client who at a Christmas dinner party, was one very snarky relative who she said, "Oh, what did you do? What do you do?" "I'm a life coach," she said, and she said, and I wrote a book. And the relative went, "You can't just write a book." And she went, "I did." I did, and it's published, and it's an Amazon bestseller. And the relative was still so stuck in that you couldn't, that she refused to believe that this was actually already a done thing. And so it's such an interesting thing that we get to be exactly what we want to be, if we give ourselves the permission, and we trust, and we dare, and we give ourselves a really cool name. Start with a cool name.
Yes.
I mean, that's going to be my next task. I mean, there's the logical part of my brain that says, well, your next task should be doing this next step on the summit. But there's the other part of me that says, yeah, it's not going to be that. We're going to listen to the episode again, and we're going to come up with a name.
Yes.
Yeah. The logical brain.
What's wrong with you? We got to get this other thing done. What are you doing?
Our logical brain always argues against our intuition. And that's actually how I know now when something is my intuition. Is it all because I've got this internal argument with it? I've got this very logical argument against it, right? And I'm always like, now I'm like, oh, I see what's happening here.
That's actually a really good point. I hadn't thought about it that way, but that is so true. That is because I'm deeply pragmatic. So whenever my pragmatism kicks in, it's like, oh, look at you talking yourself out of daring something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's really, because I will, if you can't give me the recipe or the steps to get there, that's my pragmatism, then I'm going, yeah, we can't just show up. Well, no, actually we can.
Yeah. And we prove it every week.
Yes, exactly. Love it. I love it.
Wow. Oh my goodness. As usual, I mean, we start off with no topic, and we just put together the most amazing topic that we've had on the show in weeks.
And the Wednesday show is off to a fabulous start.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yes.
Name your topic. No, I'm sorry. Name yourself. Name your identity. What's the identity that you want to assume? That's where we started with it, right?
Yeah.
And then once you identified where you want to go, then don't get tied into how you logically have to get there.
No, just dare.
just dare to do something abnormal. Be Abby normal from Young Frank.
I love it. Have you seen that not Donald Duck, Daffy Duck cartoon, where Bugs Bunny is actually drawing him, and he keeps changing, and he's some kind of weird creature with a flower hat. It's like and he keeps going. I don't feel like myself. I mean, I feel fine, but I'm out of sorts. And I've latched onto that thing of out of sorts. We've taken it as a bad thing. But when you are changing, feeling out of sorts, like you are at the moment, Walt, you're going, wait, is this me now? Oh, okay. Well, that's a really good thing, because if you're not feeling out of your sort, it's not really a change. It's just a revival. You're not playing a new role. You're revising an old one. And so you really kind of want to lean into that moment that says, so this is who I am now. Okay, let's go for that and see where it goes. Kind of cool.
That's good. And it's also reminding me, when I'm in that out of sort space, it feels uncomfortable. It's outside that comfort zone. But it's more than just feeling uncomfortable. It feels out of control.
Yeah.
And when you feel out of control, that's where I got to start doing. Oh, it's time to do some doing, because I'm out of control here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's the lack of control and the lack of trust. Well, it's the lack of control that always scared me about improv and showing up, for anything unscripted. Or then also that ties into the lack of trusting myself, that I've got my back, that I can trust my skills, and I can trust that I won't be mean and horrible to myself if I do happen to screw up. Right. So there's this, it's quite delicious to play with.
Right. So the physiological response, because it causes stress, is part of it is shallow breathing, because shallow breathing is actually the result, or stress is the result of shallow breathing, not the other way around. So when you feel out of control, it's just to take some deep breaths, because the out of control is like, I don't quite feel safe. And that will, feeling your feet on the ground, so you're grounded, and taking some deep breaths will cause your body to start to feel safer.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, you just reinforced for me that I have actually been doing lately without realizing that I've been doing, because I've been doing a lot of breathing meditations the last few days.
Yeah.
Literally exactly that, what you just described. Breathing meditations, deep breath in, hold, deep breath out, start again until you just get into a calm space with music, because I got to have the music on, because I have that audio need to fulfill. And it has helped me to navigate. Now I know I'm actually navigating somewhere.
Yes. Yes.
And I actually have a reason to feel good about it. Yes, exactly. To infinity and beyond. And I actually have reason to celebrate the fact that the keyboard is coming. I can start doing arpeggios and scales again, like anybody else wants to do that, right? But to me, that's exciting.
No reason you shouldn't. Yes, you're going to brush up on skills and rekindle them, and it's going to be so good. And then LOA Today will have a whole new theme because it's composed by you.
I have the same thought.
Well, and who knows? We'll have LOA Today karaoke night.
Well, the best part is I don't even have to go that far if I don't want to. If I do, that's great. But I think that's
you are creative director after all.
Yes. And I can change my mind at any time.
Yes.
At any moment.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And you had it. I remember my mother saying that. I said, I like changing my mind. And she said, well, if I had a mind like yours, I'd change it too. And
jeez.
So yes, it's like, no, she meant it very lightly because I was being a grump, but it is true. Okay. You get to change it, and you get to, if you don't like the one you've got, change it.
Well, I'll tell you what, with the help of you two fine ladies, my entire mind has been changed over the past hour in a wonderful way.
There you go. We did our job.
So you definitely did your job. Well done. Holy cow. I'm going to be shocked if we don't get letters on this. This is really good.
I hope we do. And I hope people tell us what crazy, glorious titles they gave themselves.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that would be great.
Yes, we want to hear your job title written in fabulous terms.
Oh, love it.
So
All right.
good.
Well, thank you guys very much. Thank you, podcast listeners everywhere. We will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.